But right now, joining us on the program, the head of the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, David Adams, is with us. David, good evening, sir.
Evening, Cam. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the program.
No problem. I appreciate the invite.
Well, absolutely. This is something that I think is of interest to, and should be of interest to, gun owners across the state of Virginia. The former state police superintendent, Gerald Massengill, has now said that he is in support of requiring background checks for all sales of firearms at gun shows across the state of Virginia.
Yeah, you know, he's never been a big proponent, or at least publicly, of gun control measures, and when he was superintendent of state police, he definitely did not get involved in any of the legislation that was being heard during the General Assembly, so I was surprised to hear that, but I think what concerned me a little bit more was his comment about we need to end the proliferation of guns in Virginia. I think that struck me more than the gun show comment.
Yeah, this was we cannot allow the proliferation of guns to continue. Now, he said this before the Virginia Center for Public Safety, which is a part of a coalition of gun control groups, right? Right.
I think it's the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence is who they're affiliated with.
Okay. So, I mean, at this point, you know, you hate to say he swallowed the Kool-Aid or something of that nature, but I mean, this is a guy who obviously is speaking to a very friendly audience and is giving them a very friendly message that they want to hear.
Absolutely, and you know, here again, just like I had the same heartburn after the Virginia Tech panel review document came out. You know, they're talking about gun shows, and the kid who committed this crime at the campus didn't purchase either of his two guns at a gun show, so they're going after something that was not even involved in the tragedy that occurred in Blacksburg.
Yeah, well, right, and see, that is, I think, what is of concern to a lot of Virginia gun owners. You know, obviously you want to make sure that, you know, people who are prohibited from buying firearms are prohibited from buying firearms, but at the same time, you know, this is not an issue that came up in the Virginia Tech shootings.
No. Now, I will say that, you know, they apparently discussed it during their various meetings they held around the Commonwealth, and it was mentioned in the final report. It was one of the recommendations they made, and I think the wording they used was all firearm purchases, not just at gun shows, but I think the review panel was aiming at all private sales, and that would definitely be something that gun owners should really be concerned about if they start pushing that dog and pony show.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, now, I guess the next question then is, what do you think the chances are that this comes up in the General Assembly or the State Senate in the next legislative session?
Oh, it's definitely going to come up. In fact, even before he made his comments, I was sure it was coming up. It's come up every year for the last 4 years. We'll be fighting it just as hard this year as we have in the past. The Senate, they got out of committee 1 year in the Senate and got killed on the floor. It's going to be interesting with the changes that occurred last Tuesday night to see whether it gets out of the Senate. I still believe our firewall in the House will keep it from reaching Governor Kane's desk. If it gets to his desk, I know it's going to be signed, but I'm confident that our folks over in the House will keep that from happening. So we'll be working hard to lobby the Senate, but if it gets out of the Senate, then we'll work with our friends in the House to kill it outright.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I think that is going to be important in this is education, and there have been so many studies done by the federal government just alone that have shown that you know, these violent criminals are not using gun shows to get a hold of weapons of any kind.
You're talking at less than 2%, I think, is the number.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, and you know, the most recent study, I guess, that you could point to on this was this FBI study on officer assaults that came out earlier this year, and 32 out of 33 firearms that were used by criminals were acquired illegally. Not one of them came from a gun show, by the way.
Well, you know, most criminals, I believe, are not going to subject themselves to, you know, perjury on a federal forum, so they're not going to go to a legal means of purchasing a firearm. They're going to go through the black market and on the street and stealing it and things like that. So
yeah,
I don't know if the AP article that the Newport News newspaper carried on the story mentioned this, but the Richmond paper, apparently they were fed some talking points from the Brady campaign because they threw out that 35% of vendors at gun shows are, quote, unlicensed dealers. You only get to that figure if you count the guys who are selling T-shirts and books and peanuts and hot sauce and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
and they didn't. I guess that's what disappointed me about the Times-Dispatch article is that they just put that number out there and didn't do their homework before reprinting obviously something that was fed to them.
Yeah, and that is, that is disappointing. Not surprising at this point, but it is disappointing.
The Richmond newspaper is actually a pretty. I won't say that the reporters are more conservative than the average newspaper, but definitely the editorial page has been.
Well, and at this point, when you're looking at a news article, it's not even a matter of being more conservative. It's just a matter of being factual.
Exactly.
You should not, on an issue like this, on an issue of gun control, you simply can't. I would not advise any reporter to take a statistic from the Brady campaign, or quite frankly, a statistic from the National Rifle Association without checking. Just do the checks. And what you'll find, incidentally, if you're a reporter, is that the statistics that come from pro-gun organizations like the NRA are accurate, and the ones that are coming from the gun control organizations are not. They're the ones that are misleading. They're the ones, as you mentioned, that have to talk about the hot dog vendors and trying to say that they are unlicensed dealers at a gun show.
Or what was it Sandy Furman said last night on the show, that our side of the argument, we do our research, the other side pays for their numbers?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And time and again, you look at the research that is done. We've got a guy who comes on the program on a regular basis, Howard Nemerov. We call him our unofficial investigative analyst here at NRA News. And basically what Howard does is he looks at the writings of the Brady campaign, he does the digging, he crunches the numbers, and invariably he finds that the Brady campaign is misrepresenting statistical data. And they just do it time and again.
I will say they have some very good spin doctors in that organization. It is probably the best way to describe that.
I'm sorry?
I said they have some very good spin doctors at the Brady campaign. Is probably the best way to describe their fact-finding folks.
Well, and they are helped, I think, by the fact that many reporters view them, for whatever reason, as an unbiased source.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes it much easier for the spin doctors to do their job when you've got a media that buys what they're selling, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, David, glad you can be with us on the program tonight, and I know we'll be talking to you again very soon.
I appreciate it.
David Adams, the head of the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, with us on the program. It's 53 after the hour here at NRAnews.com and Sirius Patriot 144.